Hello, wrong sitters, wrong knitters, wrong thinkers, wrong speakers, wrong gamers, wrong readers, and wrong what's another one? Eaters.
Furries? Oh.
Furries. And furries. We figured we might have some furries tuning in tonight. So, welcome, furries, if you're here. We're going to try and be very fair. That's something we talked about at the beginning. But welcome to a live episode of Pop Culture on Deprogrammed. I'm one of your hosts, Keri Smith. I'm here with my co-host, Mystery Chris. How are you?
I'm doing good. I watched Peter Pan and Wendy this weekend. It's
Oh,
it's exactly what you're thinking it is.
is it woke?
I mean, to be honest, some of the woke stuff wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I mean, the stuff in the trailer, like the lines, were the woke stuff. There's a line part of the film where Wendy gets some of Tinkerbell's fairy dust on her, and she flies, and Captain Cook goes, "Ah, you have the boy's magic." And she
I
goes,
saw the
"This
clip.
magic belongs to no boy." But to
I
me,
did see
that
that.
wasn't the worst of it. The worst of it was like one, it was boring, particularly the visuals, because I've watched all the live action Peter Pan stuff since Hook, which is my personal favorite. But Neverland was boring, and the script and story was boring. Like they did such a poor job executing on the themes that we're used to seeing in Peter Pan about exploring uh, prolonged adolescence and the dangers of that. And so it wasn't a good movie.
I think they just because again, you have a limited amount of attention and priorities, right? And if you're focusing so much on being politically correct or making a statement about women and girls or race or what have you, then sometimes the storytelling and those universal storylines and things just fall through to the wayside.
Yeah, and beyond that, I just think a lot of people, writers in Hollywood, suck. So, and they're on strike right now, by the way.
I saw that.
Which, have you heard? Some people do believe that this is a way that studios are trying to trim the fat and trying to get rid of a lot of the bad writers. And
Oh,
so I'm like, maybe
that's an
that would make
interesting
sense.
theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we are not on strike. None of the YouTubers I know are on strike. So I saw Friday Night Tights said that we're not on strike on Friday. I was like, yeah, cool. So come hang out. Same here. If you are new here, this is a live show that Mr. Chris and I do Wednesday nights, and we talk about different issues in pop culture. Not always topical. Most of the time, not topical, I guess. More evergreen issues. And tonight is going to be a doozy, similar to probably our Brony episode. There could be some darkness, but we'll try and have fun with it. And like I said, we're going to try and be fair. We're talking about furries tonight. And I think this is important because a lot of these different sort of what used to be fringe identity groups and communities, they use the word community, have started becoming more mainstream and more popular. And there's more young people getting into them, just like the bronies. And there are a lot of, for lack of a better word, normies, people who are busy and have full lives with working and providing for their families, and who are just now learning about furries. And I'm thinking of a parent from the town I'm from who mentioned to me about I think it was a teacher at her kid's school talking about how they're a furry, and I'm like, why is why is that in the classroom? It reminds me of that meme where the students are like, "Are we going to learn any geometry today?" And the teacher's like, "More about my sex life first." You know, no. So, furries are not always sexual. In fact, if you look up furry on your own and you try to find out about it, you're going to find a lot of defensive pieces out the gate that are trying to dispel the notion that it is a sexual or kink subculture. However, there's that saying, "Thou dost protest too much," and we're going to look at some studies and some stats about furries, which I think will show you they do have a higher than average number of people who report some strange sexual kinks or fetishes. So We will talk about that, but that's not all furries. We recognize that for any furries in the audience. We're not saying everyone. Um, however, yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
So
real quick before we continue, I forgot to do this announcement. Our video from last week on viral videos that was taken down, but we challenged the copyright strike and we won, so it's
we
back
won.
up. So anybody missed that last week, if you want to check that out, that is up, and we had a lot of fun on that episode. And
It
it
was
kind of
so much
ties into
fun.
this because we're talking about these newer cultures and the TikTok generation. So it's a good episode.
It's a great episode. It's a video about viral videos. It's not a viral video itself.
Right.
No,
If you
we
dress up as a
like
furry, it could have been, but
it could have been. We do the whole episode as furries. It's a video about the history of viral videos, and we had a lot of fun because we watched a lot of the old classics and things we hadn't seen in a while, and some people in the chat had never seen. It was so fun to watch it with fresh eyes, with like some people saying, "Oh, I've never even seen this one," and then we compared it to viral videos today, like on the ones on TikTok, and I think I don't think I'm out of line here by saying the kids. There's something wrong with the kids. I don't know why why the things that are going viral today are going viral. There's like 7-second clips and stuff of people just voguing in the mirror or just weird stuff. I'm like, that's not even funny. Why is that?
yeah. The whole episode, I kept going like, "Listen, I know I'm old, but come on, I can still understand garbage, and this is just bad. Objectively, this is bad."
Right. We've moved beyond, older people in other pop culture areas like music or film or what have you, saying, the kids today don't know how bad they have it, music
Old
in
man
my
yelling at a
day.
cloud. Yeah.
Yeah, the old man yelling at the cloud, music in my day and movies in my day. And now we're like viral videos in our day. Let me tell you, you kids don't know what you're missing.
All about that chocolate rain. Yes, sir. I miss those days. Days
Chocolate
on
rain.
day.
So yeah, if you didn't get a chance to see it, it was down for a week. They basically uh, pulled it down. YouTube pulled it down immediately after we finished streaming, and we appealed, and it's back as of yesterday. I think it's back. So go check it out. It's the viral video. Um, but tonight, oh look, Brumable's here. Hello, Brumable. He says I showed my kids the He-Man viral video, and they loved it. It's so funny.
It makes me laugh every time I see it. I've seen it so many times.
That one, that one will never get old. It holds up. Uh, Okay, so tonight we're going to talk about furries for anyone who needs a 101 explainer, which might be a lot of us. And where should we start, Mr. Chris? I have a couple of
Do
kind of,
you have a I guess
I
whatever you feel
do.
like starting off with?
Okay, let me pull up one of my links then. Um, we'll start with sort of how the mainstream is trying to, like I said, they're starting from a defensive position and sort of telling us what furries are and what they're not. So we'll start with this one. What are furries? And even in the title here, they have debunking myths about furries. So they're going to debunk some myths because we don't want you to get the wrong idea. By the way, can I ask you, when was the first time you heard of furries?
I want to say maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I think I remember seeing somewhere that viral clip of Minka Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough like cracking up over furries live on air.
Oh, I don't remember
And
that.
yeah, and I knew a little bit, like I still didn't understand what furries were, and since then I've learned a little bit more, but in preparation for this episode I've learned so much more about it, maybe more than
So
I ever wanted to know. But
my first introduction to furries, of hearing of them or learning what they were, was a lot earlier. It was probably around 2008 or 7. It was a while ago. Because someone I worked with, uh, who was into a lot of sexual kink stuff, would go to furry conventions specifically to have sex with people anonymously while dressed in these large animal costumes. So the first knowledge I had of it was as something a lot of freaky, sexual, kinky kind of people were into. It wasn't until later that I came to understand, oh, there's also furries who are not in it for the sex, and it's, there are furries who are more like just part of the cosplay community. It's like a cosplay thing for them, where it doesn't necessarily have to be about anonymous orgies.
Well, that's a lot more fun, though.
Right. um, oh, hey, by the way, welcome to the chat. I see so many familiar faces here. Keto and Crimes here also. Hello, Tracy. She says, I'm wearing a cat costume right now. I bet you are. And I see, I don't know, are all three mods here, I think. Yeah. Hey, give it up for Cheeky Mare and Pirate Tomsky and Two Sisters in Some Yarn are all here tonight. Hello, guys. Pirate Tomsky, the super chat already. Thank you, sir. Says Keri and Chris, if you aren't a furry, then you don't understand them, you bigots. How dare you challenge them and their fuzzy balls?
No, I have a lot to learn. I'm sorry.
For a second there, I actually thought you were about to come out as a furry pirate.
Twist. A pirate furry. Oh,
yeah. Okay, so this article starts off about, here's the headline. What are furries? Debunking myths about kids identifying as animals and litter boxes in schools. So if you don't know, there was this incorrect story that went around about how some kids were asking for litter boxes in schools. And I know some people ran with it and then later apologized, like Joe Rogan was one of those people who, reported on it that he had heard this. And I don't think that ended up being true. It didn't sound true to me at the time. However, it's one of those things that even if it didn't happen exactly or it hasn't happened yet, I think it's sort of true about where we're at as a society. We're not that far away. Let's just say that. So let's scroll down. It says, from abortion to book bans, critical race theory, and transgender rights, much political rhetoric in the run up to the midterm elections in the United States has centered around culture war issues. One of the most recent examples involves a relatively unknown community. It feels like everyone has an opinion or heard a rumor about kids dressing up as animals, calling themselves furries, and demanding litter boxes. Harmful misinformation about furries is running rampant on social media and even being promoted to some school boards. However, misunderstanding furries was mainstream long before it became political. Prior to the litter box rumors, furries were seen as sexual deviants. Well, I just told you my first introduction to what furries were in the early 2000s, what they were sexual deviants, the ones I knew. So, okay, maybe not all, but okay. An idea that was reinforced by popular media that emphasized the sensational over facts. If your knowledge of furries comes mostly from television or social media, then what you've heard about furries is probably wrong. It's not your fault. Oh my gosh, that's so condescending, isn't it?
It's not your fault that you're stupid.
It's not your fault you're a furry bigot. It's not your fault. The misinformation is pervasive. I'm not a furry, and I once held erroneous views of furries too. And then I was programmed. No. However, after years of research, information is now available to help correct the record. I'm a co-founder of the International Anthropomorphic Research Project, also known as Fur Science. Well, so you're not
Are they
a
serious?
furry.
It's hard. Like what?
They're not a furry, but they made it their job.
Fur science.
Yeah, they are serious. We're a small group of interdisciplinary professors who have studied furries and other fan groups for more than 15 years. That actually sounds fascinating. That sounds like a fascinating job. Okay, the basics. What is a furry? Have you heard of cosplay, where people costume as characters? Yes. They might dress up as a stormtrooper or superhero and attend a comic book convention to have fun with friends. Furries do a similar thing, but with a twist. Furries are people who have an interest in anthropomorphism, which specifically refers to giving human characteristics to animals. In its most distilled form, furries are a group of people who formed a community or fandom because they have a common interest in anthropomorphic media, friendships, and social inclusion. Now, here's where it gets a little, in my opinion, this is where it gets a little wokey. Okay. What's a fursona? Fursona is basically, I'm not reading from the article, I'm just telling my opinion. Fursona is sort of like for the people who are in the DID community, the dissociative identity disorder community, which used to be called multiple personality disorder. Those people say they have all these multiple personalities and they have a system that's their overarching, umbrella of who they are, with all these different alternate personalities. And I would say the persona is sort of like, it reminds me of DID in that it's this other way of expressing, this is my other self, it's their identity. So what is a persona? Let's see how the article explains it though. About 95% of furries develop their own unique avatar-like character called a fursona. Get it? Persona. The product of deep reflection. Personas can represent idealized versions of the self that are imbued with positive characteristics like being sociable, funny, and less anxious. Fursonas can be a safe, functional way for furries to explore who they are as people, including their gender identity and sexual orientation. Research also indicates that a fursona can help facilitate interactions with others and result in more social confidence. This part we'll come back to, but this is interesting to me because it's sort of, uh, studies have also shown that if people wear a mask, they're less socially inhibited as well. Okay. Like an actual mask out in public.
Hmm.
They're more likely to engage in behaviors they wouldn't do if they were not anonymous behind the mask. Research has also shown the same thing for
Tifa.
online. Did you say Antifa? Yes. That's a great example, actually. Um, and then it's the same thing online. When you're online, you can be anonymous, you can be behind a sock puppet, and even if you're behind your real name and photo, there's still this separation between you and the other person that that studies have shown can bring out behavior you wouldn't engage i- in real life, face to face. We've all done this. I'm sure you can recognize it in yourself, being a little maybe quicker to be rude or not be very generous with someone, a generous interpretation of what they said, or just be a little bit um uh maybe more argumentative than you would be face to face, not as kind, that kind of thing.
You see it a lot in Halloween. Like, you ever go to a Halloween party and
Mhm.
everybody's wearing a costume? And in my experience, Halloween parties have always been more wilder than regular parties because people are kind of hiding behind a mask and they free themselves up to do things that maybe they wouldn't ordinarily do.
Yes. And I'm thinking of that movie Eyes Wide Shut, the Stanley Kubrick, where
Oh,
they
yeah, yeah.
have the crazy elite sex parties and they're all wearing masks. And yeah. Okay, fursuits. Many people think that furries dress up as animals. Some believe they dress that way all the time, but that's not quite right. Furries don't identify as animals, they identify with animals. Eh, okay. Not entirely true, because when they're in that fursuit, you just told us they have a fursona, that this is their identity now. This is like an alternate identity they have. So they are, in fact, identifying as that fox or that, whatever personality they've created for that fox or that skunk or whatever their fursuit is. In the same way that cosplayers typically don't believe they are actually Spider-Man, furries don't think that they are their fursonas. Having a fursona doesn't mean that a furry owns a fursuit, which is a mascot-like outfit, and only 15 to 25% of furries have them. While many furries have no interest in acquiring a fursuit at all, they can also be prohibitively expensive. Some fursuits are phenomenally engineered with fans and cooling packs and LED lights built into them. Fursuits are usually worn on special occasions, a parade, a meetup, or convention. Another 50% of furries own furry paraphernalia, a furry t-shirt, ears, collar, or a tail that communicates their furry interest to others. So then they go on and they debunk the litter box thing. This is really funny. Do furries have sex? Yes, people have sex and furries are people.
What?
They're trying to like they're trying to address the
The
some of the
elephant in
sexual
the room.
proclivities, yeah,
It's like
without addressing it. Like there's
it's like
something wrong with you for wondering if they're having sex in the costumes, which I know people who do.
and is
Do
that
they
like borderline bestiality? I know they're not actual animals, but it's like, I mean, if you're someone who's into having sex with people who dress up like babies, like, doesn't that kind of make you a little, I don't know.
it's just a little I don't know. It's a little strange. We're gonna look at some stats on how many furries identify as zoophiles later, which is zoophiles, apparently people who are attracted sexually to animals. And it's a pretty high percentage. So it's not the majority by any means. It's 18%. Study after study has shown it's like consistently like 17 or 18%. That's very high for a community. Yes, it's not the majority, but it's high. 18% of the general population is not like out here, sweating their dog. Like it's like that's like a weird that's a abnormal. And so but yeah, we'll look at those stats in a minute. Okay, do they do it in their fursuits? Here they get to the question. For the most part, they do not. Remember, fursuits are prohibitively expensive and custom made and hard to clean, hot and bulky. It would be like trying to have sex wearing a winter coat inside a spacesuit. As my colleague Courtney Plant says, for most folks, dehydration, lack of feeling, or seeing anything overheating and clumsiness are not conducive to sexual arousal. For most people, furries included, these aren't exactly conditions that put them in the mood. Do furries go to conventions for sex? Well, all kinds of people go to conferences. Sometimes they have sex there.
Oh,
It's the same for furries. Humans can find intimate connections when they gather, but it's not usually the reason they engage in the activity. Mhm. While sex can certainly be a part of the furry fandom, the majority of furries are motivated by reasons of social belonging, not sexual motivations. I don't disagree with this. I think the majority of them probably maybe the majority are maybe half are motivated by something other than the sexual aspect, maybe. Well, again, we'll look at some statistics. In other words, if you removed all the sexual content, there would still be a furry fandom. Is furry an orientation? It's not. It's a fandom. However, it's worth noting that there are many marginalized, it's a woke word, statuses within the furry community. Depending on the study, we find that more than 70% of furries identify as LGBTQ plus, more than 70%.
I've
And
seen as
more,
high as 80% in some of the other
yeah,
articles I've read.
80%, 70%, and more than 25% are gender identity diverse, meaning they're also, hey, trans, non-binary, gender fluid, all of that woke stuff. Furries are bullied at almost twice the rate of non-furries, and our forthcoming research indicates that 4 to 15% are on the autism spectrum. This is something I found some articles about, which is not surprising to me. Um, because also there's a very high percentage of autistic children who are now saying they're trans. And I suspect there's something about autistic kids in general feeling like outsiders, feeling a little different that makes a like a furry community or the trans uh not identity but the trans ideology, the whole ideology of like, well, it could be that you're born in the wrong sex, the way this is being pushed in schools, that makes them more susceptible to it or makes it attractive to them because then it's a way of belonging, and
Yeah.
being special.
Yeah.
Also, people with autism, studies have shown it's harder for them, generally speaking, on average, harder for them to tell when someone is lying to them. And so I think that people with autism might be more likely to get pulled into things where they're not exactly as likely to be able to tell when a con is being run on them, maybe, or um, an ideology is not presenting itself for what it really is. If that does that make sense? Am I saying
Yeah, that
that?
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, despite these risk factors and some who fear ostracism for their interests, furries' well being, self esteem, life satisfaction, relationship quality, and happiness are the same as non-furries. I really don't know if I trust that statement
Right. That's what I was
personally.
thinking. It's like,
Yeah, because maybe we should do the stats right after this, should we? Since I keep talking
yeah.
about them. Okay, and then the bottom line, furries are a fandom like anime, Star Trek, or football. I don't know a lot of people who are going to football games to, like, specifically for the anonymous sex.
Or Star Trek
Or
adventure.
Star Trek.
Must speak clean on. Doctor.
And again, not saying all or even the majority, just a sizable percentage for a fringe community. Okay, they enjoy bonding with like-minded others over things that they have in common. The fandom provides a social network for its members, and furries can benefit tremendously from these friendships. The inclusive nature of the furry fandom means that for many furries, it's a safe place where they can be their most authentic selves. I believe this too. I do believe this. What are your thoughts on that piece in general?
Well, first of all, the piece started off talking about the belief that I guess some people had for a while that there was like litter boxes being set up in schools, and I was thinking the fact that there were so many articles going with this, and particularly politicizing it, saying, "Oh, those stupid conservatives that bought into this," it reminded me of the COVID vax stuff when
Mhm.
they were saying that people believe that there are microchips in the vax. And I was like, I'm sure that you can find some schizophrenic people out there that actually believe that, but most people, were concerned about blood clots and myocarditis and other things. And that was being used to ignore legitimate concerns and just paint everybody with that crazy brush so they wouldn't have to talk about that. And so when I see so many articles starting off like this one did, it just makes it seem like they're hiding something, that there's something else going on that they trying to steer people away with or from, and get people just to believe that people who are expressing concerns about how furry fandom is manifesting in the lives of some is, potentially unhealthy. It's just, it seems very obvious what they're doing.
I completely agree with you. They'll take, like, the one weird thing that went around about litter boxes, and they'll use that to say, "This is what any concern is about," when that's not the case.
Mhm.
I hear you. I hear the analogy you're making. It's a great one. And yes, that happened during the COVID years. And I remember even now, sometimes people, if you're arguing with someone about, um, the government response to COVID, and they'll say something like, "Oh, you must be one of those people who thinks COVID isn't real." I'm like, I don't know anyone who thinks that. Like, I'm sure those people exist, but no, that's not what my concerns are about. That's exactly
Yep.
what you said. Yeah. Um, well, let's look at some of these statistics because these are interesting. Um, although, should we start with stats or should we start with some photos? Because some people may not even know what furries look like.
Yeah, let's get in photos and in stats. How about that? I
Okay,
think that's good
photos
enough show.
first. So, which of your links should I open?
Oh, if we want a photo, let's see, what did I put in the pull up the furry archive one?
Okay.
So this is a website I found that had some archives of old furry conventions. Because so the furry fandom, some people say it started in the 70s, others say it started in the 80s, but either way, it's been around for a very long time. And I found this website that had some photos from the 90s, and you can see how different a lot of these costumes were. A lot of
Back then, yeah.
yeah, much more simpler. I'm sure they probably cost a little bit less now because I was reading that furry costumes can cost anywhere from $700 to $7,000, and so I just thought it was interesting knowing that this has been around for a very long time, way longer than I initially thought.
Yeah.
If you could click, you can click on some of them and it'll bring up a gallery.
Let's look at this one. Well, she's wearing a dominatrix outfit, or he. I don't know.
Oh
The
yeah, yeah.
the character looks female.
Oh.
The fursona is female. Um,
Might have to come back to this later, huh? This is how it starts. It's how
This
they
is how
reel
it
you in.
starts. This
It's how
is
they
how they
reel
reel you
you
in.
in.
And then you're like, oh, because sometimes, like, I know men especially have said, like, sometimes your body will react in a way that your brain doesn't want to, and you're like, ah, what's happening? If this is turning you on, I'm sorry. We'll get it off the screen.
Gateway drug. Yeah.
Let's see what else. Let's go back one. Oh, by the way, thank you for thank you for the super chat. Tracy, Keto and Crime, $2. Thank you. She says Asteroid 2024. Is that who's running? Is it Asteroid running? Because I'll vote for them. And then this is interesting. ADL 1992. Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us again, sir. He says, I'm autistic and also gay. While I don't belong to those groups, I can understand it. I've been tempted to join. I get it. And I'm not autistic or gay, and even I understand it. I understand that kind of that sense of belong. We all, because that's what community provides, is a sense of belonging. And so
Yeah. I, I
I
I think
yeah.
it's just the concern is that if people need this in order to like function to get through, like it doesn't help them work through any issues that they may have, and they just solely rely on it, and those issues never get fixed. Well, that becomes a problem. And that's like anything, any kind of fandom, any kind of escapism in moderation can be really good for a lot of people, but if you're addicted to it, then problems can arise in your life.
I think you're right, and that's true for any fandom, any escapism, whether it's if you're too addicted to video games, there's a difference between really enjoying them and playing them a lot and just being like that's all you do and other parts of your life are suffering. And the same thing with, any fandom or fan community that you're a part of, whether it's Harry Potter or conventions or you can take it too far, just like some people can take alcohol too far or, whatever that escapism of choice is. These are, pleasures can be abused. Well, that one
It's
looks pretty
just,
sexual.
it's, like, it's just no reason for it to wear the
I
underwear.
know this one. I'm kidding. I don't. Oh, that's a very come hither look. Oh, goodness.
I like that one.
You like this one? He's like part
It's
human.
like business casual. Yeah,
It's interesting how old these are, how long this has been.
I know.
Yeah. Okay. These guys were there for the sex, I think.
What
Just
gave it away? The pants.
the pants. Also, look at their face. Look at their eyes. They know what they came there for. I think it's like the human eyes peering out. And this person, this dominatrix outfit. I mean, come on.
It's right around the Matrix. Yeah, it's a Matrix cat, whatever that is.
This is one of those things, again, we've talked about where these sort of like fringe sexual kink communities and stuff that truly used to be fringe, and now they're in the mainstream, so much so that we're doing an episode about it because I know normies who are like, hey, my kid's teacher's a furry. And it's like so mainstream now that I feel like, are any of these OG furries really annoyed? Are they like, dude, this used to be our cool thing?
I bet they are, seriously. I think that happens to every like group, culture group, whatever. I like that guy.
With this one?
Yeah, he's very happy. He's very excited. Like if he were to come up and talk to you, you'd be like, "Hey, this guy's excited to talk to me."
He's also wearing a jersey. I feel like he probably has a day job. He probably works for some kind of
Oh
sports
yeah,
team and just using the costume off hours that they don't know.
could be the mask. Yeah, the mask. He's the mascot.
He's the mascot. Have you ever worn a fursuit?
No. Not that I don't think I have.
I wore a fursuit once.
Why did you do this?
When I worked at the Duke Primate Center, we did tours. I was one of the tour guides, and we had one of the a mom of one of the employees there made lots of costumes and things, and she made us a giant lemur fursuit to wear for kids' birthday parties and stuff. It was like a homemade, like a big old head and everything, where you're looking through the mesh nose holes. And it wasn't my job to wear that, except one time Connie Chung came to the primate center and brought her kid because Maury Povich was in town playing at some youth golf thing. Yes, and so there wasn't an extra person, we weren't expecting her or something, I don't know what it was. My boss basically was like, "Ooh, get out the fursuit." So I had to give her and her child a tour of the primate center and, be professional as a tour guide, and then my boss was like, go put on the lemur suit and come back out and, entertain her kid," right? But I've never done that before. So I put on the lemur suit, and I didn't even know how to pretend to be a lemur. I came hopping out like a rabbit. Like, and then, it was just the whole thing was awkward. I scared the kid, and I was like the Connie Chung was, like, trying to ask me questions, I'm trying to look at her through the nose, and she was, like, asking, like, "What do you eat, Zaboomafoo?" Because one of our lemurs had been used in a TV show called Zaboomafoo. Anyway, what do you eat, Zaboomafoo? And I was thinking, "Oh, should I answer her? Lemurs don't talk." So I was, like, trying to point at the leaves outside on the tree without speaking, but I
Try to
was, like,
stay in
pointing at the
character.
ceiling. Anyway, that was my fursuit experience. That's
Did,
a
did the fursuit feel good?
No, it was terrible. And I never wore it again. I was like, "Don't ever make me do that again." The the whole thing was embarrassing, and then I had to take it off and ring up her purchases from the gift shop, and I was all embarrassed. I was like young I was a college kid, it was embarrassing.
Some alternate universe you're referring. That's how it started.
Yeah. Um, okay. Wow, thank you guys. Keto Crime, $5. Thanks for the super chat. Says the convention just needs a British announcer like at the National Dog Show. Yes. I bet some of them do where they come out in their costumes. They probably announce them and, you know, I would.
Oh yeah, I have some videos later of some dance competitions.
Okay. We're
Yeah,
gonna have to watch those. Ethan Sevilla for $5. Thank you for the super chat. Says the 1973 Disney film Robin Hood started this furry stuff. There are entire Tumblr confessions about it. Wow, I didn't know that. I didn't come across that.
yeah. I've seen websites trying to trace back, the interest in furries, and they're tying it to all these animated films from,
Oh,
60s, 50 years ago.
interesting. Thank you for that. Thanks for that super chat. Okay, so we've looked at some furries. Let's look at some stats about furries. I've got a couple here. Let's do the furry sociological survey. How about this one?
Let's do it.
Okay. You guys see this? The writing, the font is very small, so we're mostly just going to look at the graphs, and I can read some of the other stuff too. This is called the Furry Sociological Survey. This is from 2008, and they define furry at the top. A furry is a person who expresses an interest in anthropomorphic animals or creatures. In 2001, David Russ conducted a sociological survey on the furry community. The aim of the present report was to repeat his study. 276 furries on message boards and forums completed an online survey, very similar to Russ' original survey. And by comparing our findings with Russ and the findings of other studies of furries, and I've read several of these studies, that they're pretty consistent in some ways. We were able to validate most of our results. The conclusions included confirmation that the vast majority of furries found online are male, Caucasian, and only a small percentage are vegetarian. But that's a funny thing to include in the like, which are the most important things? Only if you're a vegetarian. Okay.
They don't eat themselves. Yes.
Right. Okay, so let's scroll down to some of the interesting results. Let's talk about the gender breakdown first, the sex breakdown. biological sex. So they ask, "What is your gender?" This is 2008, before the popular explosion in trans trenders. Um, and so I'm going to assume that most of these people are answering according to their biological sex. So it's like very consistent. 80 to 85, 81 to 85% of the furries are men, and only like 15 to 17% are women.
I thought there would have been more female furries.
I think I did too. I think maybe because we see a lot of photos of the sexual female personas.
Oh wait, that could have been a dude I was looking at earlier.
Exactly.
Uh canceling that late night looking at the webpage.
Exactly. I don't know what I'm not quite sure what to make about this, that it's mostly men. Do you have any thoughts?
I don't know. I mean, with a lot of male students, I know struggle with. I know a lot of male students struggle with ADHD, and I know there's controversy of that being a made up diagnosis. Some people believe, and that a lot of young men are not being allowed to be themselves in school, and that particularly by female teachers. And I think that is contributing to a lot of these issues where they're not fully forming their identities at a younger age, and they're seeking out these kind of communities and in order to try to find themselves in a sense.
That makes sense. I think you're right. I think that could be part of it, is that it's sort of there's no longer a it's not safe to be a masculine man, or in some ways to be any kind of boy at all. Boys are overdiagnosed with ADHD. They're over medicated, in my opinion. I think it's over medication because they don't behave in exactly the same way as girls in the classroom and other places. Like,
Well,
um,
that's what I mean with trans too. I mean, most of the trans, and I haven't seen the statistics, but I think it's pretty obvious most are men, because certainly the ones that are being promoted the most are male to female and not female to male. And so again, I think a lot of society that doesn't really value males as much as they value females. I think a lot of men are trying to find ways to find some value and for society to value them. And if they have to go to a little community that even is a little bit stigmatized, I think they still find more meaning in those close relationships than they do from the larger society.
Bungalow Logic says nothing about this makes any sense. Well, touche. We are trying to make sense of it, though, as best we can. Okay. Yeah, Stuart, you are correct, by the way. In the chat, Stuart Lunsford says trans was male dominated. It was, just like this. Only recently have tons of females suddenly had the issue. Yes.
Well,
And
I
it,
mean, feminism itself is going down. They're not really put up on that pedestal anymore. And so it kind of makes sense. Like, hey, if I come trans, I can still be in that top, part of the hierarchy. And
oppressed hierarchy.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Some of the most interesting findings of this study, by the way, were not in that summary at the top. I don't think the fact that very few of them are vegetarian is that interesting. There's some more interesting stuff in here. So, what is your age? This is interesting. And you can look in the older study in 2001, over half, 51%, were 18 to 22, so young. And then in those 7 years between the two studies, you see that get more evened out, where there's kind of equal numbers of people between the ages of 18 to 35. So people are, I guess older people are getting into it, or over those years, these people here in this category aged out into these groups, so they're continuing to be furries into later periods of their life, I guess.
Yeah.
Wonder why there's no 80-year-olds who are furries. My grandfather wasn't a furry. I don't think there were furries. Was your grandfather a furry?
I hope not. Funny, I found like some old photos he buried of him dressed up
Yeah,
as Roger Rabbit or Bugs Bunny in a dress or something.
yeah. age 61 and up, 0% furries. What's the country, the current continent of your residence? And wow, this seems to be a North American problem.
Oh,
Not if it's a problem. Always, again, I'm trying to suspend the judgment. This seems to be
I
a
want to
North
know.
American phenomenon.
I want to know who in Africa is identified as furry. Like,
Point three.
yeah, I want to know. I am a
Those
furry. Yes.
those have to be expats. You know, like those have to be North Americans who are living in
Nigerian
Africa.
furries.
Yes.
Oh,
This
I was gonna
just
make a
like
racist joke,
woke,
but I
I
won't.
feel like this is sort of something that can only happen in a first world culture and society where you have so much free time and, you know, where you go searching for your identity or what have you. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, Africans are not about to be furries.
You ever heard that clip though? Why are you gay? Be funny if they did it first. Why are you a furry?
What are you furry? Now this is interesting. What's your race? Wow. By the time we get to the 2008 study, 94% of furries are white. And yes, I know that there's more in North America. There are more white people, but isn't it like 60% of the population's white or something?
Yeah, I think it's around that.
60? Okay, so there's a disproportionate number of white people who are furries. Why is that? But you know, there's also a disproportionate number of white people, white men, since we already know these are mostly men, of white men who, you know, why do they have such high suicide rates? Why do they have such high, um, well, white women rates of depression and anxiety and things like that? What
Most
is it,
homeless
white
men are
people?
white too. Yeah.
Most homeless men are white. What is it, white people? I'm not sure. What do you think?
About what?
Only Well, only 2% of furries are black. Do you have any thoughts on that?
And too busy shooting and getting shot. I don't know. Chicago. I don't know. I mean, you also have to think about like anime too. That's gotten really popular, and particularly amongst non-whites and Asians. And so, perhaps some of these people have gone to other fandoms and less on furries.
Yeah, maybe. Is fandom more of a white thing anyway?
Eh, I mean,
I don't
animes
think so. Anime
seems pretty
is?
mixed. I mean,
Mm.
there's a lot of blacks that are into anime, and obviously a lot of Asians in there, and whites, and so anime is in general comic book culture too. I think it's gotten pretty more diverse.
Well, I'm looking at the chat to see if they have any answers, Misty Chris, and Bungo Logic says it's white privilege. So
Ah, cursed white privilege.
once again, we get all the furry privilege. We're keeping you out. There's a furry ceiling and you're beneath it. Pirate Tomsky, thank you for the super chat, sir. £5. He says, I feel attacked for no reason at all. Chicago, what? Thank you very much. Okay. So, well, the race thing, I don't know. I'm going to think about that more, but it's interesting. Now, take a look at this one. What's your current marital status? Oh, most furries are single. Um, so 42%. Let's look at the later number. By 2000 the 2008 study, 42% were single, 30% married, 26% dating, 1% in a group relationship, 1% never dated. What's your sexual orientation? So if you add together, so there's heterosexual 25%. So 25% of furries are straight in this study in 2008. Bisexual and homosexual and uncertain account for the other 75%. So like you said, pretty consistently 70 to 80% are in the, like the article we read, you know, are in the LGBTQ plus community. What's your sexual inclination? this is very interesting to me what happened between 2001 and 2008, because just anecdotally, I mentioned the first time I ever heard about furries was because someone I knew was going to a furry convention and was going there because this person was a part of the sexual, like a lot of different sexual kink communities and stuff, and was going there for the sexual aspect, and was also a polyamorous person. And that was really big and trending. And I think it's probably even more popular now in Los Angeles, where I was living at the time. And so, anyway, you see this trend where in 2001, 75% of the people who were furries were monogamous, like just one partner. But just 7 short years later, that had dropped off to 51%, and then you saw this huge jump in polyamorous furries from only 6% of furries being polyamorous up to 47%, like almost half
Jeez.
were saying we're polyamorous. What is your interest in furry of a sexual or non-sexual nature? Okay, so 21% of furries said their interest in furries is non-sexual. 21%. So then that leaves like almost 80% their interest in being a furry is some kind of sexual interest. Because only 21% say it's not sexual at all.
Gee.
So 80% say it is sexual, and then they break that down. 46% say there's a minor sexual interest in furries, in being a furry. 33% say there's a significant sexual interest in being a furry, and then 0% say it's completely sexual.
What is a minor sexual interest? Like, is that like, hey, they only look at furry porn, but they don't actually have
I
sex
don't
in
think
furry
they mean
suits? Like,
minors. Like,
right.
okay. I'm talking about the
Okay.
men with helmets who go into a mine. Okay. No, that's not what they mean. I made 2 jokes there. I was trying to. I probably failed. I probably failed. It was a pun. It was a bad pun joke. Yeah, I don't know what minor sexual interest is either, because I think probably those are people who just don't want to like
Yeah, yeah.
basically they should have just said, do you have a sexual interest or non-sexual interest? But they gave people this kind of fuzzy area to be like, I do have a sexual interest, but I don't think it's that pronounced, right? Like,
Are you minorly gay or like just a little gay?
that's good. Okay. Now here we get into the zoophile question. Okay, this is where it gets to me. This is where it's like, no, this is not normal.
You just told me what this means.
Yeah.
Should you define that for
So a zoophile is apparently defined as a human who is sexually attracted to animals, actual animals,
Hmm.
like gets off on bestiality, basically,
Oh.
whether or not they commit it. So in the 2001 study, 17%, that's a high percentage for any group of people to be zoophiles, to be sexually attracted to animals. Now it fell off. By the 2008, you see it dropped down to 2% said that. But we're gonna look at some other studies where it's pretty consistently at that 17 or 18% marker. And I just wonder if, like, by 2008, it
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, that's not cool to say that."
Yeah. I think
I don't
that's the
know.
case. I think they're probably don't want to again admit, that they're into some of that stuff. Just like we saw with the previous data set.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, wow, look who's here. Cole's here. We haven't seen Cole in a long time. Hello, sir. He says, "Thanks for the $2 super chat." He says, "I dated a furry, but she was cheetah."
Tisk, tisk, tisk,
Oh,
tisk. Carry on. Yeah, it took a while.
is that a pun? She was a cheater?
Yeah. Womp, womp, womp.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the pun. So silly. Aw, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Okay. Are you a plushophile? So in 2001, 7% said yes. And much like with the zoophile question, by 2008, they had dropped off to just 0.3%.
Wait, what is all these words?
I know. It's almost like a cult where they make up new they have to have like a whole lexicon to be a furry. You have to know all these new words like fursona and
Plushophile sounds like someone
zoophile.
who's like likes having sex with fat people.
A plushophile is someone who makes masturbatory use of stuffed animals and
Oh,
dolls and puppets.
I didn't need to know that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm including this. I just thought this was kind of interesting. If you look at they asked them, "What is your religion?" 28.5% say they're Christian. You've got 20% saying atheist and 34% saying agnostic. Guess how many Muslim people are furries?
Oh, something's missing here.
0. 0% is the answer. I think they already have a pretty solid identity. Maybe. Um, and then sociology of the furry fandom, and I'm not sure how this is I'm not sure how this is different exactly, because they again break down these different religions. Um, Now, here we go. What's your current education or highest level achieved? 47%. Well, no, let's look at the later stats. 2008. 26% of their highest level of education was high school, 42% college or university, 20% bachelor's degree, 9% master's degree, 3% PhD. And it's interesting to note that all of those higher levels of achievement increased. So the furry community started to become more populated by people who had these higher levels of education. I mean, look at the bachelor degree column. It went from only 7% of people had one and up to 20%, the master's degree from 2% to 9%. These are huge jumps in a period of 7 years. So all of the it became I think it's becoming more of a again, like a pursuit of leisure and maybe the intelligentsia. I don't know. What do you think about that one?
Well, yeah, people are going to have more disposable income, I think, as they get into 20s, and particularly if they manage to get in a high paying role. And because people are delaying families and having kids till later in life, that's freeing people up to spend money on, furry costumes or a Deadpool costume, whatever, to buy all these, toys and everything. So that's not too surprising, really.
Russ Williams has a good point, though. He also says, well, yeah, there was also a massive expansion of academia in the 90s and 2000s. That's true, actually. Yeah. Oh, thank you for the super chat. Miss Meow Mom gave us a $20 super chat. Thanks for supporting pop culture and Deprogram. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Alan Scott says white people are crazy and I am white.
Noted.
Okay. Let's scroll down. Okay, what's your primary occupation? Now, in 2001, over half of the furry surveyed said their primary occupation was they were students. They were actually in higher learning at the time, I guess, or high school, who knows? And then that dropped. So you see more professionals are getting into it. Look at this huge jump here. So by 2008, computer professionals, so people who work in tech, I guess, or IT, any kind of, maybe Google, like those kind of jobs, 22%. That's pretty high compared to
No,
the
I mean,
others.
a lot of them are pretty socially awkward and into nerdy stuff.
Yep. What is your yearly income? Okay. In 2001, 65.5% of the furries surveyed said they make below $10,000 a year. Is that shocking to you? That was shocking to me.
Yes.
It's shocking, right? Maybe that's because they were mostly students
That's what I'm
then?
thinking. They must be just students. I mean,
Yeah.
unless they're, waiting on tables or something.
And so then as well, if you scroll back up, yeah, there was a high, spike for the service industry also, went from
Hmm.
4% to 15% as a field of work, but what is your yearly income? And then, that dropped off by 2008, only 35%, which is still pretty fairly high for less than $10,000 a year. Um, but again, maybe that's 'cause a lot of those people are students. But then look at these other numbers, the distribution, like, between $10 to $20,000 a year, 14%, between $20 to $30,000 a year, 13%, and then you get a little higher with between 30 grand and 40 grand a year, 16%. It's I don't know. That really high spike there below $10,000, the majority of the furries in 2001, that was kinda shocking. I think yeah, it's gotta be because more of them were students then, now it's more of the professional classes and more of the people with
Hmm.
the higher they're getting the higher degrees that they were in school for then, maybe.
What is your diet?
I don't know why this study's so interested in this.
I know.
Surprise, most furries are omnivorous like most people.
Let's assume they dress up as an animal. They would be interested in eating animals, I guess. Maybe that's what they find interesting, but
Yeah, I don't
doesn't
know why
seem
they
to
find that interesting.
pan out that way.
And then how long have you been actively involved in the furry fandom? And so the highest, it was between 1 year to 5 years where most of the people lie. Okay, we'll stop
Over
with that
21
one.
years. That's crazy.
So I thought, yeah, there were some surprises there for me. What about you?
It wasn't too surprising. I would have thought there had been more in the higher income range, but yeah, it's not overall not that surprising.
Uh, the look at this, Mr. Chris. Hobbs Meerkat is here. Says since I left the bronies, sir, I'm so sorry. I still want to talk to you, and it's going to happen if you still want to do it. I've just been very busy. We've been redoing this house. Anyway, Hobbs was here when we did the brony episode, and
Oh,
is a brony sounds like maybe now a former brony? I can't tell from that chat, but, I would love to talk to you, so I will get back to you. Um, oh, cool. No worries, I'd still love to. Cool. Um, Bros and Bros says the percentage of zoophiles was surprising to me. Yes. That was surprising to me just because, again, if you do a quick Google search for furries, what you're going to find is a lot of articles like the first one we read where they're trying to dispel what they say are myths. They even put it in the headline, dispelling myths about furries. And they really go out of their way to offer this defense out, this pre-defense where they're sort of saying like, don't believe what you've heard. It's not about the sex. It's just any other fandom. And while I agree that the majority of furries, are not obviously not zoophiles or into bestiality or any of that by any stretch of the imagination. It's still pretty high percentage, 17 or 18%. That's high for a community. And then if you look at the people who are in it, who say they're in it, um, for the sex to some degree for the sex, they're interested in it is sexual, it's 80%. That's high. That's pretty high. At that point, I think if 80% of the people say they're in it for the sex, like, you can say it's a sexual subculture for
yeah,
the most part, right?
I would think so.
I would think so, yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's get away. I do have some other, studies pulled up, but not to beat a dead horse on those. Let's look at some of which of your links should I pull up next?
bring up the LGBTQ and furries one. That has some videos in it too. But this article talks about how intertwined the LGBTQ groups are with furries. And so I think there was a section. I'm trying to remember what
This
section.
is a Metro Source article, and the headline is LGBTQ and furry. This is what the gay yiff is really all about.
Yeah, so let's see. I think there was maybe the first one. Let's see. You can just scroll through it. I mean, I guess you can briefly read the first couple of paragraphs there. Um,
Well, they kind of go over they tread some of the same ground as that first article. They say, what is being a fur what is being a fur really all about, and what does that have to do with the LGBTQ community? First of all, not all furries identify as LGBTQ. In fact, some don't consider their fandom part of their sexuality or wear the fursuits associated with the term. However, many furries do have a fursona, an avatar for themselves with a mix of human and animal characteristics. They may attend conventions, role play online, or create videos while inhabiting that character. And yes, some of them have sexual relations while fully or partially costumed, and some of that sex will be with partners of the same gender. The term yiff refers to sexual content about furries or furries having sex. Some debate the term's origins, but it may be an onomatopoeic word for the sound Arctic foxes make. However, though the furry fandom has become culturally synonymous with yiff, what it means to be furry is more about creation and imagination.
so yeah, you can just scroll through the rest. There's some videos. Like there's one video. This guy, I think he's got a pretty big channel, and he has a story about coming out as a furry to his parents. He's also gay. Uh, there's videos about furries and gay pride parades, and a bunch of other interesting ones. But yeah, this one goes into quite a bit of detail about LGBTQ furries.
By the way, this one is called This Furry Book Made Me Gay, which I mean, we were joking about earlier, like you never, people going down a rabbit hole and then being like, "Is this me?" Like, mm. And then being transgender in the furry fandom. Should we watch part of one of these, or
Just watch a little bit, just to get a sense of it, just a little.
how about
Tiny,
this trans one?
yeah, just a tiny bit.
Oh, look, now an asexual person. Ugh, there's every kind of
Everybody's
sexuality.
got to get on it.
Yeah. Uh,
Yeah.
being a furry helped me come out as asexual. Being a furry helped me come out as demisexual. Well, being a furry helped me come out
Being a
As
furry
some of
helped
you
me
may
come out
already
as
know,
black.
helped you come out as black.
There's got to be like African American like coalition of furries. There's got to be.
Black furry lives matter.
Yes.
Let me tell you. Oh my goodness. Black trans furry lives matter. Okay.
as some of you may already know, I am transgender. But what does it mean to be trans and furry? The furry fandom is a pretty awesome place, full of accepting people and diverse lifestyles. What I'm going to talk about today is my experience coming out in the fandom as transgender and how it's changed for the better since then. If you were to ask me at the beginning of 2015 how my life was, I probably would have said that everything was perfect. I had the perfect boyfriend, house, dog, car, life. That all changed November of that year. Chip, my husband, and I were going to get married, and something was nagging at my soul. You see, I had lied to him since the day we met. One tiny white lie that was so harmless that I thought maybe if I tried hard enough, it would just go away. That fateful November evening, after a tearful conversation in the hot tub, I came out to him as transgender. And we lived happily ever after. Just kidding. But seriously, things did work out, but not without a lot of hard work. I thought living as a gay man might be enough for me to feel fulfilled without transitioning. It was hard, and I constantly tried my best to fit into that role, but as I'm sure plenty of folks who knew me at that time would say, AJ always seems like he's trying too hard. It's true. I was at a point of toxic masculinity, desperate to shape a facade that would destroy every last ounce of my feminine nature. Ultimately, it was that broke me. The weight of years of repression tore me apart. A lifetime of emotions.
I just want to pause this for a second and say, just remember what we were saying about this being a first world kind of, having the luxury to have all of these sort of existential crises of identity and attraction, all this stuff. It's like you would never see an African person doing this video or grappling with this. And yeah, people are like, turn it off. Okay, well, stop. We've seen enough. We've seen enough.
I want to know how the mouth is moving. That's what I want to know.
Oh, well, they've probably got
Like a motor or
inside the
something.
fursuit, yeah, like a little thing they're pulling down or something.
Yeah.
I bet. Or a remote little button that they push to make it move. Tree surgeon, oh my goodness, with probably the best comment. Yeah, this was clearly preferable to toxic masculinity. This is how I dealt with my toxic masculinity. Yeah. This is a great comment. Also, Bungalow Logic, this makes Halloween obsolete. Yeah, what does a furry do for Halloween? Do they go as a human?
Oh yeah. I always ask myself that about prostitutes. What do they wear on Halloween if so many women are dressed as prostitutes on Halloween?
They're like, been there, done that. I'm going as a Mormon. That's my day job. Pyrotovsky, oh my, thank you with the super chats. It gives us a 10-pound super chat. He says, stop. We can't keep bending normal life to deal with these effing degenerates. I'm so pissed off with this nonsense. By the way, I identify as black trans.
You are so black and trans, Pirate. I knew it. Congratulations.
He's coming out. Yeah. I don't like dealing with this nonsense either. I hear what you're saying. It's reached that point where it's not fringe anymore. It is becoming more mainstream. And we saw that Biden official, Sam Brinton, who's into pup play and going to colleges and teaching young men how to get into pup play. And, all this stuff is like that used to be in the bedrooms. It's not in the bedrooms anymore.
No.
It's in our public life, and people's kids in small towns in the South are finding out about it because their teachers are saying, hey, I'm a furry. And so I'm at that point where I'm like, we should do some explainers for any parents, because you know what? If they go out there and they Google furries and they're like, what is a furry? My kid's teacher's a furry. I got to look it up. You know what they're finding? Articles like that first one that we read, which are like, poo, 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 don't make too big of a deal out of it. So your kid's teacher is a furry. It's normal. Don't believe all the stuff about, sex at conventions. Like, it's not. So they're getting all that propaganda. So it's sort of like, well, let's try and do a balanced approach. Like, what is it? And try and be fair. Obviously, we have an opinion. But, there are some things in this video that are not opinion, like the fact that 80% of the people in the survey said they're into the furry fandom because of the sex aspect. It's like, that's a fact. So I don't know.
You should bring up the anti-furry bill article I sent you.
Cool. Let's do it. Here. Pirate Tomsky is feeling generous tonight. $5 super chat. Thank you, sir. He says, I'm coming out of straight and white. How can I be a victim? You have to put on the fursuit, dude.
That's all you got to do.
You've got to get a oppressed identity. Thank you very much, Pirate. Okay. We're going to bring up the anti-furry bill.
Yeah. I forget what state. Once it comes up, we'll show what state it was.
I think it's Indiana.
Yeah. There's a bill in the legislation, which they may have already voted on this. I can't remember, but it
keeps going to this.
Is that a furry? I can't tell.
It keeps going there. This is from the Indy Star. January of this year, 2023, Indiana lawmaker targets furries in schools, says schools say that there's no problem. Do you want to read this one or you want me to?
Just a little bit. Just you don't have to read the whole thing, but
A bill working through the Indiana Senate would reiterate that schools are allowed to enforce dress codes and curb disruptive behavior to address concerns about students identifying as furries. It follows a nationwide wave of claims, none proven, that students are dressing and acting like animals in classrooms. Indiana Senator Jeff Ratz from Richmond authored Senate Bill 380, the quote, Various Education Matters bill, makes changes to how the state calculates high school graduation rates and then also includes this line, quote, a school corporation may adopt a policy concerning student dress code or disruptive behavior, end quote. When introducing the bill in the Senate's Education Committee, which Ratz chairs, he said it was to address concerns about students who, quote, may be imitating or were behaving like a furry. Essentially, what this signals to school corporations is that through the dress code, you have the ability to drive how students dress, he said.
what's controversial about that?
I don't think there should be anything controversial about it other than that they're talking about the litter box thing again. Trying to say, well, because that litter box thing wasn't true, that means that no kids are identifying as furries. Which is not the case. There are kids as furries.
But anyway, yeah, that was all I wanted to read from there. But yeah,
He did say,
basically.
well, look at
Go
this
ahead.
part. Parents and school employees brought the complaints to him, Ratz said.
Yeah, I mean, we keep hearing that there are people who've been saying that, but of course, you see all these articles saying, "Oh, there's no truth to any of it." So I don't know what the hell's going on, but there's something going on.
Well, that's interesting. Well, we'll see what happens with that.
You want to bring up the next one about this council member?
Yeah, which one is that? Oh, there we go.
It's right under,
Yeah.
or yeah, right underneath that. So this one's, I don't know what to think about this one. This one.
Oh, by the way, can I just give a thank you to I didn't see it until the stream had ended on Monday. I should have said this up top, but I'm pretty sure what your average patriot nerd, was it you? Your average patriot nerd? You're here tonight, so you tell me, did you gift a lot of memberships to people? Because if you did, thank you. That is very kind. Let me know if that was you. It was after I had already hit end on the stream, but I saw that afterwards and was like, oh, how cool is that? Okay. New York Post. Inside the weird world of the furry fetish. Oh, look at this furry.
It's a Gorn. From
What's a
Star
Gorn?
Trek. From Star
Oh,
Trek.
of course I don't know. Sorry.
Not one of us.
It is estimated that at least 250,000 people in the US identify as furries. These are not an offshoot of PETA activists rallying for the safety of animals and their coats. Instead, furries are a subculture whose members enjoy dressing up as cartoonish animals, sometimes as a sexual fetish, but more often as a fun escape. In early September, the furry movement made headlines for all the wrong reasons. Scott Chamberlain, a councilman from New Milford, Connecticut, was forced to resign when it came to light that he was a furry. His animal of choice, a fox called Gray Muzzle. This revelation was confirmed via Chamberlain's profile on a website called sofurry.com. Why are you laughing so much?
I mean, that's funny. I mean, come on. Not only was it a furry, but the fact that this came to light, it was a huge controversy.
It's a huge controversy.
Like it was a secret neo-Nazi or something.
The profile showed a photo of him posing alongside someone in furry garb that he checked a box on his sofurry.com profiles that stated that he, quote, tolerates rape, did not help his situation. Nevertheless, those in the furry community rallied behind Chamberlain. people who wanted I'm sure that helped him to have a bunch of furries outside with signs like, "Let him stay." And he's like, "Get away, get away. It's my association with you that's the problem." And they're like, "But we love you." Nevertheless, those in the furry community rallied behind Chamberlain. People who wanted Chamberlain out of his political position got, quote, carried away, said Joe Strike, 67, a writer who lives on the Upper East Side, identifies as a furry, and authored the new book, Furry Nation. Quote, "I don't want to call it a lynch mob, but people get upset. I feel sorry for the guy." Strike added, "People thought it was unfair." If it's any consolation to Chamberlain, for Apocalypse, the largest gathering of furries in New England will take place in October, and it'll be held, not far from his home. Strike, who dresses up as a suave Komodo dragon named Komos, says, quote, "He wears a dinner jacket, his eyes are hypnotic, and his presence is commanding. All that's missing is a sherry goblet," end quote. That was the picture of the guy, the furry at the top, this guy. That's him there. And then, Strike estimates that 2/3 of furries are men. Well, yeah, the data we saw said it's maybe even more than that. And that a large number of them come from the IT and technology professions. Yeah, we saw that. The latter somewhat jibes with a study on furries led by Canadian college professor Dr. Kathy Garbasi and published in the Journal of Society and Animals. Garbasi found that approximately 25% of those surveyed considered themselves less than 100% human. That's a stat we didn't see yet. 25% of the furries she surveyed they consider themselves as less than 100% human, and that they would become 0% human if they could. That doesn't vibe with the very first article we read, which says, don't worry, these people don't identify as animals, but just with animals. Strike said that most furries he encountered grew up with interests in anthropomorphic cartoon characters and now find comfort around others with the same interest. Here we go with the debunking again. While it's commonly believed that sexuality plays a large role in the socializing of furry friends, Strike insisted that only a small number of his comrades engage in sexual acts while dressed in their outfits. Quote, "You don't have fetish scenes at the conventions, but some people might go back to their rooms for fun." Nevertheless, his current boyfriend, Strike is bisexual, met him at a furry event, was attracted to Strike's outfit, and used it for an entreaty. One day he sent me a text saying, "How are you, you sexy gator?" He's a walrus, and I don't find his costume to be a turn on, but he is quite younger, and he called me sexy, and I'm not complaining, end quote. Okay.
I mean, would you prefer this or people going to Jeffrey Epstein's island?
I mean, why? I don't have to choose. Don't
I'm
present
just
me with
saying, like, this is a big deal, but what about people on Epstein's island?
True. That's true. I think Jeffrey Epstein is far worse than this gator.
Gator.
But yeah, if I had to choose, I'd hang out with the gator. Binary Bard for $10. Thank you for the super chat, Binary Bard. Says a friend of mine is in the cybersecurity industry. He says a lot of their conventions have furry meetups, and some of those meetups are hosted by the convention. There are quite a few in my field too. You remind me of your field. I think it's music. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, there's a lot of people, I guess, in the tech and people that work with computers who are in it, and we haven't even gotten to the autism overlap as well. Maybe I'll pull one of those up next.
Okay, yeah, do that.
Okay. Because this attempts to explain sort of what we were talking about at the beginning about how you see maybe one of the reasons we see a disproportionate number of autistic kids who are now saying that they're trans or saying that they're furries. This is one attempt to explain that. And where is it? It's not showing up. Hold on.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah. Thank you. Keep doing that. There it is. Thank you. You're talented at that.
Thank you.
You should do some hold music for us. Okay, for some with autism, this is the headline. Furry culture offers comfort and acceptance. You see a picture there of a lot of furries at a convention playing Uno, and they have, look at this, they have very large Uno cards because they can't fit them in their big animal paws, the little tiny cards. Those Uno cards are like the size of an iPad.
Where do you get those?
The furry shop, duh.
Of course. For all your furry needs.
Furries are people who have created anthropomorphized versions of themselves, and a Pittsburgh-based researcher has found that up to 15% of people with this hobby have autism spectrum disorder. This number includes people who have been diagnosed with autism but may or may not agree with the analysis, and people who have never received a diagnosis but self-identify as autistic. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention estimates that like only 2% of children in the US are autistic. So you can see it's a disproportionate sample size of people. Like there's 15% of people in who say that they're in the furry fandom who are autistic. And so excuse me. There were over 9,000 people involved in this study, and here are some quotes. Quote, "What I love are all the different expressions on the faces. Some of them are just wide-eyed, big smile," said Elizabeth Fain as she watched the convention's furry parade. Quote, "Like a little bit toothy, a little bit of a jagged, toothy grin." That's interesting because, there are studies that also say, as I mentioned before, that autistic people have a harder time, some people do, greater than average difficulty, being able to tell when someone's lying to them, and also have a harder time on average being able to interpret facial expressions, like nonverbal cues.
Right.
Most people at Anthrocon wear street clothes, often with ears or tails. Some commission full suits, which are made from plastic, fake fur, and foam rubber. Furry costumes often resemble Disney or anime characters. They're technicolor with big, cute eyes. Others have a creepier vibe. And then this woman's talking about how everyone's trying to kind of maneuver around each other in the crowd. She says this is the kind of thing that seems like it would be incredibly difficult for a person on the spectrum. Fain specializes in psychological and psychiatric anthropology, as well as neurodevelopmental disorders like autism. The American Psychiatric Association defines autism spectrum disorder as causing persistent deficits in social communication and social interaction across multiple contexts. For this reason, said Fain, the suits are a draw for many autistic furries, which is the case for 22-year-old Travis of Gettysburg. Travis said he was diagnosed with autism while in middle school. He came to Anthrocon dressed as Silva, an icy blue Arctic saber cat. Quote, "When I'm wearing the full suit and the head, I feel like I don't have to be me," he said. "I'm the character I'm trying to portray, so in a way, it's like a break from the anxiety and stress. The full suit is very sensory for me," he said. "It's like I'm just wrapped around just a big, giant, like carpet-like hug." Many autistic people find it soothing to use a weighted blanket or to wear heavy clothing. Also, it's harder to hear or see in a fursuit, which Fain said helps some autistic people who get overwhelmed in environments that are too loud or bright. Quote, "People will talk about seeing less and hearing less," said Fain. Additionally, lots of people with autism struggle to read social cues or make eye contact. Furries wear masks, forcing people to communicate with exaggerated gestures, which Fain said can be easier to interpret. Plus, they have those very expressive masks, like the eyes and the facial expressions that she talked about. "When you're in a fursuit, there's not that degree of fine-grained nuance," said Fain. "Are you going to open up your arms for a hug? Are you going to tilt your head? Are you going to squeak your squeaker? For a lot of people on the spectrum, that makes social communication easier and more fun." mean, this I think helps explain a lot with why you
Yeah, it
see
makes
that
a lot of
overlap.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Which one of yours should we pull up?
Do you want to get into furry dating?
Okay, now we saw something that was normal and humanizing and helping to explain, and now we're going to get into something funny.
Just the yin and yang. It keeps...
The yin and the yang. Yeah, okay. Should we play that video of the furry couple, or are you going to save that for later?
Yeah, let's play that.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Good.
Here.
And then after that, I want to pull up a furry dating site I found.
This series that this is on, this furry couple episode, I've actually seen some of their other episodes. So if we have time, I might show you one about a couple where it's like my girlfriend identifies as a dog. It's not exactly the same. It's kind of related. Okay. This is an episode called Couple Enjoy Frisky Costume Fun. It's on a show called Extreme Love, which I have seen some of their episodes. It gets into all these weird different communities, subcultures, sexual subcultures.
A global community who love to release their wild side by dressing up in their own animal fursonas.
My fursona's name is Riot. He's a very confident and somewhat flirtatious fox.
I actually have two fursonas. One fursona's name is Pix, and she's a very bubbly and...
Wait a minute. There is part of the 2% of Black people who are furries in this video.
We found them.
You found her. And she's a woman. Very rare.
He found a unicorn or a bear unicorn.
Siberian Husky. And I'm the most adorable husky you ever want to see. My second fursona is Freya, and she's a Shiba Inu deer hybrid, and she's very sassy.
Joey first...
What? Wait a minute.
Two?
Wait, she's already got two fursonas, and one of those fursonas is also a hybrid. Like, she's a Shiba Inu, which is a dog, but also what was the other part? A deer and a Shiba Inu? Okay.
That's very selfish. She should share her personas with other people.
A Shiba Inu is not special enough, and a deer's not special enough to like put together.
Embraced the furry lifestyle when he started college.
I found the community to be welcoming when I was going off to college and on my own for the first time. I wasn't super into like sports or anything like that, so I was always more the computer kid. So I was a little on the, I guess, weird side, but it really helped me come out of my shell.
For Missy, becoming a furry happened when she was in need of some comfort.
I lost my grandfather, and I didn't know how to deal with my emotions. I felt like I just had no outlet. A friend of mine said, come out to this meet with me, meet a bunch of furries. I sat there and I thought maybe I could give this a try. For me, each time I put on my fursuit, it makes me feel not so bad on those days where it's hard to cope.
But what do their families think about their fursonas?
This is what you mentioned. It's like a kind of escapism. Like any kind of activity that we enjoy, that we use to escape, but there's that balance of how far do you take it,
Yes, exactly.
They literally said, seriously, you're a grown woman and you're wearing an animal costume, stop it. And as the more I explained it, the more it made sense.
Both of our parents don't really get it, but it's just more of a if it makes you happy type of thing.
First suited up and now players in the scene. It was almost inevitable their furry paths would cross.
I met Missy in a group text chat for a bunch of furries. We started talking, and then we eventually agreed to meet at a convention.
He tried so hard to just win me over, and it didn't work, so we ended up fighting. I felt really bad, and I called him up and said, I'm really
I tried
sorry.
Googling a furry
And
fight.
gave it a
I couldn't
second
find any real furry fights. I just
Not
wanna
any
see, like,
real
actual,
ones?
yeah, drag out fight between furries.
chance. I'm game.
And I agreed.
Once they'd patched things up, Missy and Joey unleashed their furry fetish in the bedroom.
There are times when both of us enjoy engaging in somewhat frisky activities while we're wearing our suit. Something that a very small subgroup of furries are into, and we happen to be part of that.
It's just a small subset, guys, but we happen to be in it.
They're very an elite.
Small subgroup.
I was curious about the sexual aspect, to be honest, and it felt kind of rebellious because it goes against everyone's view of a furry.
To participate in these pursuits, their fursuits must be fit for purpose.
One of my suits has a hidden crotch zipper for those type of activities, so it's very discreet in the front, and then you just unzip it. There you go.
When I designed my suit, I specifically asked my fursuit maker if they could put in a strategically placed hole.
Just there you go.
Okay. I love hearing you laugh like that. That video is worth it. For anybody who says, please make it stop, that video is worth it, not just for
Let's watch it again. No.
interesting. No, but for Mr. Chris's laugh. I was just saying. Your giggle. Oh, man. Okay. Go
On
ahead.
that, can we briefly pull up the mersuit one that goes into detail about the sex suits?
Yeah.
I just find it fascinating.
This article is called Fursuit versus Mersuit.
So if you scroll down to the mersuit section, the fursuit is just the regular suit that doesn't have any holes in it, but the mersuit does. It's almost this little underneath there.
Okay.
There we go.
What's a mersuit? Now we're getting to the fun part. It says the term mersuit generally refers to fursuits of a sexual nature. The term itself is loosely applied and can refer to different types of sexual fursuits, from those designed with strategically placed holes to standard suits that are occasionally used for sex. So these are the ones like we just saw them explaining. They have holes in them and stuff so they can have sex while they're in the fursuit. Okay. But it's just a small subset, guys.
So many types of suits. It's like Batman. What if Batman has strategically placed holes?
Batman's like, please make this version mersuit.
Where did you get that costume, furry?
Oh man. Okay, can we do the furry dating site?
Yeah, bring up the furry dating site one. So apparently there's a lot of these, and some are more legit than others, but I mean, with every other kind of dating, you've seen it branch off into like the weirdest genres or groups you can think of.
You know what's really funny is because this is all about fantasy and escapism, and you're literally wearing a animal costume and pretending to be an animal. But then on the left it says where real relationships begin. Which is just kind of funny because it's like, well, I mean, I like language. I'm interested in language.
I want to know how many people like post their actual photos or just them in the furry suit.
I don't know. Well, like that guy, that gator we just saw, he really likes his gator suit and he probably feels very sexually confident in it. He thinks his suit's attractive and he says his boyfriend was attracted to it. So he probably just posts his gator outfit, But then others maybe, like, because he said his boyfriend's a walrus, he's not attracted to that suit. That guy might post his real picture.
So you put like exclude like foxes and elephants, and like if you don't want to date an elephant furry.
Yeah, you could be like, yes, what are you interested in?
I'm interested.
No walrus.
No walrus. I'm interested in lizards.
I only want to
some
date
dogs.
foxes.
Only black labs.
Yeah.
I only like those type of dogs. Oh, that's real. That's real. That's a real photograph.
It says, Rikkas and rainbows, we are perfect for one another. That's like their cartoon avatars. You know how it said, guys, I don't know if we were clear about this earlier, that not every furry has a fursuit, in part because fursuits are expensive. A lot of these people are younger or students and making less than $10,000 a year, and the fursuit can cost $3,000, some of them. But most of them have, especially if you've seen a lot more furries lately, or if you're on Twitter, I've seen a lot more furries on Twitter, and they all design these like cartoon avatars of themselves, of their persona. So that's probably who, that's the two of them there.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and the dreams that you dream.
Okay.
Yeah, get the.
Oh, we might get a copyright strike for that song. I didn't even think about it. Oh, no. YouTube. We were adding context and sampling for fair use, please. Okay. Yeah, thank you. Oh, I should have been looking at the chat. He says copy strike for is. Yeah, man. Sorry. Okay. What about the furry date?
Oh yeah, this was you're going to play a little bit of this. This was a blind date with a furry that some, I don't know, show or somebody set up.
This is just not fair to the person on the blind date, because even if, let's say, you do have some fetish or you're part of some subculture that's not the norm, and whatever it is, let's say you're a furry, you don't show up to the date in the garb. Like, it's just not fair.
Oh, wait.
It feels liberating. Feels like I am actually expressing myself. I'm being open. I'm very nervous. I'm sweating, but I am just gonna go for it.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I was hoping you'd be a furry.
I like this. I like this so much.
Me too.
Actually, if I may now ask, since
Okay.
you asked so much about being a furry, do you want to consider being a furry one day?
My name is Taylor. I am 22 years of age and I live in Seattle, Washington. The definition of being a furry is a fascination or an interest of animals that do human things. So animals walking around, living in the same world, going to get coffee, going to work. Being a furry doesn't mean you have to wear a fursuit. It just means you have a fascination of it.
You're like, I'm out.
Ethan Sevilla says, I could save her.
Cute.
Ah, okay. That's enough of the furry dating videos. Right? Although,
what?
should I show you that one video I mentioned? Because it's really not that far removed.
Hmm.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
No, I don't.
My girlfriend identifies as a dog. Or my partner identifies as a dog. We'll just watch the very beginning. We're not going to watch the whole thing. This is part of what I mean is, like, this is not in the bedrooms anymore. This is not some weird, like, it is weird, I think. But it's not this fringe subculture anymore. Like, even look at the number of people who are now saying they're furries, or they're into, and they're polyamorous and they're trans, and all these different things are exploding. This is one of those things. This is what the Biden official Sam Brinton was into, was this pup play stuff.
Imagine if the easiest way to delight your wife is you just throw a ball across the room. Relationships wouldn't fail anymore if that's all you had to do.
Here's Tony.
Are you laughing?
Yes.
I think I hear you laughing. It's again, you're never going to see this is not an African person for a reason. Like,
Award for Puppy Palooza, and then these two are the best ones I have because these are my two best in shows. I got these at DomCon. My name is Tony, and
best
I'm a
in
human
show.
pup.
I'm Andrew. I'm Tony's husband and trainer.
So she's the human pup and he's her husband and trainer. And that sound like what that sounds like is what it is it's like a dog show. Like we all know, we've all seen Best in Show, right? Except the dogs are humans who are walking around on leashes pretending to be dogs.
Pet play is any time that a person takes on the role of an animal, and they emulate that animal either through their behavior or their actions. Some people wear costumes. This is the first hood that I ever got. I've been involved in pet play for my entire life. A lot of kids like to play pretend. They like to pretend to be an animal and they enjoy doing it. I just never grew out of that.
I got into pet play through Tony. Once we started dating, handler is a common role.
Okay, here we're about to see another one that there's also a lot of these the pup play people like intersect with the pony play people.
Oh, I have a video on that.
Oh, okay. Here, just a quick glimpse of the pony play people.
Okay. Very good.
It's not sexual, guys. Why do you think it's sexual? Come on.
It's just pretending to be the Riddler from the latest Batman film.
You know, totes norms. Super healthy.
I really want there to be like a Batman bad guy who like doesn't like steal or kill people. He's just a sexual degenerate. And like Batman has to stop him from doing degenerate things.
He's like, I'm breaking up this pup play party.
What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? Go to work.
My parents were murdered by a gimp.
You know why you make less than $10,000 a year? You dress like a pony outside in somebody's backyard with a bit in your mouth.
The purpose of the LA Pony and Critter Club is to provide a safe space for people to explore and experience animal role play. Nice. And we have just the best time. Every time I do it, it's like the best time of my life. This is the best moment of my life. Oh, this is the best moment of my life. And easy to walk. And extended walk.
We engage in pet play actively a few times a month. And it's often in a social setting, such as a club or an event. We've been in the LA Pony and Critter Club.
Horses, I do silent commands. And with puppies, I do German.
For me, the quintessential pet play gear is tail and hood. Everything else is extra. So let's do tail first.
I have a question.
Yes.
What sends you into puppy space? Like when you put on these two things or one thing?
For me, it's being on all fours. The gear is, I don't need the gear. The gear is.
What a keeper.
Pet play is, first of all.
What did you say? What a keeper?
Yeah.
Put a ring on that girl.
She looks very obedient and loyal.
That puppy.
Club, we do fox hunts. We have dog shows. We have herding events. Anything a dog can do, a human can do. I consider myself out. I'm very open. That being said, I do compartmentalize my pet play because not everyone wants or needs to see that.
But let's go on a TV show. So
yeah, but a shame. Like not just like doing stuff like this, but like you said, like why are you putting this out for the entire world to see? Like that's probably part of the excitement. Like they get off on.
I think they get off on the exhibition, but also it's an attempt to normalize it. It's an
Yeah.
attempt to normalize it. So it's like, even just the way they talk about it as if it's so normal. Like, look, anything a dog can do, a human can do. And,
Mhm.
and the way she was talking about at the beginning, sort of saying, trying to compare it to the way in which children play. And, children play. And as a kid, I pretended to be a dog. And, this is similar. Claudia Pimentel for $4.99. Thank you for the super chat. Says the scary thing is the normalization of this craziness. Yes, lady, that's what it is. It's out of the bedroom. It's out of the fringes. It's part of. It's gotten pulled into this sort of all these different sexual subcultures have gotten pulled into this woke identity stuff. Where now if you make a moral judgment, God forbid you have a judgment about like, I don't think that's healthy, or that's not something I want my kid doing, or my kid's teacher doing, or talking about doing, then you're viewed as some kind of bigot. Like there's something wrong with
Kink
you.
shaming.
You're kink shaming. Yes, that's what they talk about. You're kink shaming. So thank you for the super chat. I agree. It's the normalization of what it is. Anyway, next week, infant play. No, I don't think I could ever go there.
No.
I don't know. I couldn't. That
No.
one's just too stomach turning.
Yeah.
It's just really, really, yeah. I'm trying to be very fair about the furry stuff. I don't think, and I don't know, probably if there are furries watching, they think I'm not succeeding. I'm not being fair enough, probably. But I don't think I could even try to be fair about the infant play stuff.
No.
No. Vermont Cheddar, thank you for the super sticker. $3. Thank you so much. I can't see it on here. I'm not sure what it was. You'll have to tell me. Somebody tell me in the chat what it was. But I appreciate it. Ethan Sevilla says, when I was a boy, I pretended to be a T-Rex and a knight in the same day, but I did that inside my bedroom. I at least had shame. Yeah. Okay, we're done. We're done with the puppy play and the furry videos. Look, I think people are coming to the same conclusions. This is not this sort of, innocuous, innocent, and it's certainly not the divorced from sex, kind of thing that they're presenting it as. So I think those videos help to establish that. Hopefully, that there is a sexual aspect. Again, 80% of survey respondents who are furries said that there's a sexual aspect for them with the furry stuff. So that's pretty high. Okay, which of your can we close this out with something funny? What do you want to hit before we leave?
Do you want to watch? There's a furry music video, and then I have a furry dance contest. Your choice.
We'll just show a quick clip of the furry music video. Is this serious or is this satirical?
You be the judge.
Is this called All the Single Furries? Which is, as we know, is 55% of them. I'm kidding.
All the single furries, all the single furries, all the single furries, all the single furries, all the single furries.
I feel like we still might get some kind of copyright strike for this song.
All right, mute it. And you can just watch them dance. Yeah, I mean, you already know the lyrics. You're just saying all the single. Can you put the closed captions on? You can see what they're saying.
Yes.
Oh, it's great out. No.
I don't think they would come after us for copyright, but I think on the publisher side,
yeah,
for that real song, maybe. Oh my. Okay, furries. I think that's serious. I don't think it's satirical. That's my take.
I think it is serious too. If you actually listen to the lyrics. After the show, you can watch it.
Okay, after the show, we'll watch it. Should we watch the Alex Stein clip?
You can watch a little bit of it. It's like 3 minutes long.
I didn't know he dressed as a furry. Okay.
Yeah, I think it was a few months ago, not too long ago. Oh wait, this is a different one.
Oh, what is this one?
Is that the not? Did I not put the wrong one in there?
Oh, I think it's the wrong link. This is a dance competition, a
Yeah, that's
furry
the wrong
dance
one.
competition. I thought this was Alex Stein. I was like, he's pretty good.
Well, mute that. And let me find the Alex Stein one real quick. I thought, sorry, put that in there.
Let's see the most watched part of this video. This is a whole convention where they go to dance as furries.
Yes.
Like it's like a rabbit
It's
hole
glorious.
within a rabbit hole.
And if you go to the 132 mark, there's a group dance of all the furries.
What? 32.
It looks like a lot of fun. Look at that.
It actually, like, you know, we should report from one of these. As much judgment as I have about the sexual subculture aspect, I mean, I kind of love going and just seeing like, what is this about or what is this about? In my old life, this one comedian I worked with, we had a short web series we did where I got to go to WeirdCon, which is a big cosplay convention. That was so much fun, just to like interview these different people and see what different kind of cosplays people are into and stuff. And I mean,
It's almost like the Star Wars kid when we were watching that video last week.
yeah,
And it's like certain people, it's like their interest in something is innocent, but they're very passionate about it.
yes.
So even if I think it's like a little weird, it's kind of endearing a little bit, just seeing how passionate they are about something that's kind of innocent for them.
This part of the furry world doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
This is like,
'Cause that's just like cosplay to me.
it's just
That's
cosplay.
like,
It's not sex. It's like a sexual fetish or anything. They're just having fun. It's truly what the articles are trying to tell you. It's all like, this is just fandom. This is just fun.
yeah.
Now I'm gonna piss off the people who are really anti-furry. Hey, that's like
that guy's
not a
good.
lemur. It looks like
Hey,
a hoochie
yeah.
monkey.
It'd be funny if it's that same exact suit. But
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, put the Alex Stein there in the private chat.
In the private chat? Okay.
Yeah. His suit's really weird.
Oh, wait, I did see this. This is great. I forgot about this. Okay. Ronnie the Rat goes to City Hall. Oh, God bless Alex Stein.
Good old Alex Stein.
Next, I have Ronnie Thurett. Sorry.
That's me.
Oh, goodness.
I'm Ronnie. How you guys doing? Hello, council.
Wait, it's the best part. He says, like Bart Simpson, he wrote it down. Thurett. The guy's trying to pronounce it right, and he's like, Ronnie Thurett, Thurett, and then he sees him and goes, oh. Let's just watch that part again. That's the best part. Oh.
Next, I have Ronnie Thurett. Sorry.
That's me.
Oh,
I'm Ronnie. How you guys doing? Hello, council. My name is Ronnie the Rat. I'm a trans species elementary school teacher here in Allen ISD, and I just want to try to bring more awareness for furries like myself. Now, I have the most students in my class that have actually transitioned from a human being to a cat. Now, I know I'm a rat, but that's more because I'm a Chuck E. Cheese, freak. I love Chuck E. Cheese. I've spent a lot of time there, but that's why I like rats. But this is the problem, is we have a lot of trans inclusivity in other cities like Frisco. They're doing pride parades at a lot of churches. We're not doing any pride parades at churches here in Allen. And that's what we need. We need more kids on gender reassignment surgery or gender reassignment hormones. And the best way, I think, for me that it's gotten the message out to the other students is doing it myself, leading by example. And that's what I'm trying to do here as a trans species, as Ronnie the rat. He's like, listen, there's this social stigma. Me trying to date other furries like this and Alan, there's not a community. There's not a bar that accepts me, Chris. I can't just go to the bar like this. I get made fun of. And that's the same thing that's happened to my 9-year-olds, my 10-year-olds. If they feel more comfortable being a cat, I don't mind putting a litter box in the classroom that lets them defecate in there. That's what I think is important. And should I tell the parents? No, we shouldn't tell the parents. These kids can make decisions at 10 years old. Like, their parents shouldn't be involved. That's what makes me so mad is I get all these parents that are mad at me because I oftentimes buy these costumes for these kids, and the kids go home in the costume and the parents come back and they yell scream at me and they say, we don't want you to sexualize our children. They call me the G word, Groomer, which is basically like the N word. And it's just a terrible description of who I am. I'm trying to help young kids be themselves. If they want to be a cat, if they want to defecate in the litter box, I'm all for that. I'm talking to the principal. I'm trying to get the cafeteria tables on the ground so that the kids are able to eat more ergonomically on fours like an animal. This is what we need to do. We need Alan to be more inclusive. Right now, we're suffering from a lot of bigotry. And so I'm Ronnie the rapping rat. So I want to end on a little rap. Yo, my name is Ronnie. I am a rat. If you talk crap, I'll get the gas.
The guy in the background.
Get the booster. Test it on 8 mice. I don't really care if you got lots of lice. I'm a pimp on a blend, teaching my kids their gender. We can cut it off, throw it in a blender. Gender reassignment surgery is the key. It will set you free. Get a mastectomy. I love when you cut it off. Then you can be the boss. I'm a teacher, not a preacher. God is fake. The earth evolved from pond scum. Two rocks smashed together. That's how we got here. Ronnie the rat. Don't grab the gat. I don't really care if you sit in the front or the back. The indoctrination is super strong.
We got. Oh, we have to end with that's too funny. Oh, this just yes, he cracks me up. Yes, from a bull. He says Alex is the best at what he does. He is. He is. He's a masterful comedian and troll, and I just love it. Kevin Anderson, I think he might be being sarcastic. I can't tell if you're being sarcastic, Kevin Anderson. Yes, he is being sarcastic. He's a comedian. In case you weren't sure, for real. But that was great. Thank you. Okay, what else? What else are we gonna end on? Or is that it?
That's it. We're gonna end it there.
That's kind of a good ending because
Yeah.
that's fun and frivolity and uplifting and someone poking fun of the madness. I love the fact that he says he's a teacher. But yeah, still my favorite is the guy at the beginning. It's like he's so sincere. Ronnie Thurrett, the rat. He comes walking in the rat suit. That's me. He goes, oh.
His expression at the end of the video is really funny too.
Oh man.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you guys. Thanks for hanging out. Frivolities is Binary Bard. Yes, we had a little bit of frivolity there at the end. No tattoos. Actually,
I
should we
did put a
play-
tattoo. Do you want to bring that up? I did.
Yeah,
put
let's
that link
end with
in.
our game. Is there a tattoo of that? And we'll see. Are there
Drum roll.
any drum roll? Are there any furry? So far, we've never been disappointed, have we? There's always a tattoo of that.
Pretty much.
Is there a furry tattoo? Why, yes. Many people are getting their first self, their fursona tattooed on themselves. Here we go on the left. Wow. This one's got glow-in-the-dark ink on it.
But
This
anyway.
one says furry.
All
I'm a
right, stop
furry.
there.
Why?
Keep going.
Why does it get dirty?
Yes. Keep going.
Well, that elephant has
Keep going.
breasts.
No.
What is this cat has breasts?
No, it gets more. It's just like gets more perverted. I'm like,
Oh.
yeah. All right.
Okay, we'll stop. Well, yeah, there's a tattoo of that. That's what we answered. Devena says, a ratu. Thank you. I like that pun. You can always do Just say Nate. Ryan. You can always do bad puns in the chat. I appreciate it. Okay, just say Nate. Okay, guys, thank you for hanging out. We hope this was educational if you weren't aware of what furries are, but also entertaining. And stay tuned next week, Wednesday night. I'm not sure what our topic is yet, but we do this every Wednesday night live at 8:00. We'll announce what it is. And Mystery Chris, as he mentioned at the beginning, our video from last week got taken down for a full week, the viral video. So if you haven't seen that yet and you want to see it, it's back. And we had fun hanging out with you. So anything else from you?
No, that's it.
Okay, guys, we are going to go. We're out of here. We're going to go then. Bye-bye. Thank you. See you later.
Oh, I'm going to go then. And I don't need any of this. I don't need this stuff. And I don't need you. I don't need anything except this.